Now let's talk ambience in room. When we say the word ambience in RX, it's mostly referring to the noise floor of a particular piece of audio. When I use the word ambience in normal professional life, I'm talking about the room that's around us. Here, I'm talking about the space that we can hear in the recording. Here, we're going to cover both, actually. So let's start out with de-reverb, which by the way, have I mentioned how much I love the names of these things? These are very handy. They're kind of idiot proof, and boy, do I need that. So let's go ahead and listen to this recording one more time. We do have some room in it. This was recorded in a fairly large room that was mostly untreated. It was a demo, so we weren't being too precious about it, but there's still some splashiness that I'd like to try to tame a little bit. Again, this is not a magic bullet in most cases, the de-reverb. This is a very tricky thing to deal with, and maybe at some point in the future, we'll have some better ways of dealing with this that are even more advanced. This is not to say that the de-reverb is not very, very handy and sometimes feels a bit like a miracle. But what I tend to use it for is getting things a little bit more usable. There can be phasing issues that go on with certain rooms and things like that, and you just can't get around that sometimes. But let's see how far we can take this. Let's listen one more time and just make sure that we know what we're talking about with the room.
Come dance with me on the land and in the sea. Time to let your body free. Turn around and feel the beat.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here, by the way, is we can start out by hitting learn if we want. The learn function works fine, but what I tend to like to do is just preview it and see what we come up with. I will tell you that having the tail be set sort of on the short side is generally the way to go. Again, unless this is a treated vocal stem with reverb that you're actually trying to get rid of. In that case, I would recommend opening up center extract if it's a stereo file and just getting rid of the sides and seeing how far that one gets you, because oftentimes that'll get you halfway home. So let's go ahead and listen, and I'm going to flatten these out. Okay, so they're all at 6. This is the reverb profile in terms of the different EQ bands: low, low, mid, high, mid, and high. Let's just hit preview and let's play with these a little bit. I've got the tail length dialed in somewhere I think is going to work, and now let's push the reduction and see how bad we can make this sound.
Come dance with me on the land. Come dance with me on the land.
Okay, so we can hear off the bat that it is very easy to destroy everything, although this might be a fun effect to use on something else. Let's see if we can get things in a little bit more usable territory.
Come dance with me on the land and in the sea. Time to let your body free. Turn around and feel the beat. Come dance with me on the land and in the sea. Time to let your body free. Turn around and feel the beat.
I'm thinking maybe a slightly longer tail would be good. And let's solo some of these bands and see what we've got.
Come dance.
Okay, so I'm not hearing a lot of reverb there. Let's look at the high highs, and these meters are kind of firing more in the high range, so I think we're going to find more useful stuff there.
Time. Free, turn around and feel the beat. Come dance with me on the land and in the sea.
Okay, so let's preview this and let's bypass it.
Come dance with me on the land and in the sea. Time to let.
All right, and now let's listen to a full preview with it engaged.
Come dance with me on the land and in the sea. Time to let your body free. Turn around and...
That body free area is going to be a tough one. Let's see if we can push the reduction a little bit more and not lose too much.
See, time to let your body free.
And maybe we need a little bit more of those low mids and the high mids.
See, time to let your body free. Turn around.
Oh, that is a little bit tighter. That sounds good to me. Here it is bypassed.
See, time to let your body free. Turn around and see, time to let.
And here it is engaged.
See, time to let your body free. Turn around and see.
It's subtle, but I think that we're getting, again, into more usable territory, and especially if we're going to compress afterwards or do things like that, I think that using this, we can really clean things up quite a bit. This artifact smoothing function I find works great when it's up high. That's sort of going to work against the trashifying of a vocal or of your audio file that can happen if you push the reduction. Sometimes you can find a nice balance here. It really does its job quite well. Now let's look at the ambience match. If I go ahead and I hit ambience match, I can come up with this window that allows me to learn the ambience of a specific area. So I'm going to choose it and hit learn. and it has to be of a certain length. And when we talk about ambience in this case, what we're talking about is sort of the noise floor of the recording. That's the way they say it in RX terms. And so if you've got a section that really loses its ambience, or that's very different, or say you have an edit somewhere where you don't have the same ambience, it can be very, very handy if you're trying to hide those edits or trying to hide those punches. This is more of a voiceover thing, but it can be handy at times for music.